There were additional victims in Daejong's serial killing case. Citizens were more anxious because perpetrators hadn't been found even after 20 murders, except for the fact that all crimes had been committed in the same metropolitan area. There was no clear connection between the victims regarding gender age. The girl Unni was one of the victims. She was the sister of news reporter Lee. Lee Se-la was an employee of WBC. She was writing a report regarding a family of the 4 found dead, most likely it was by robbers. Lee was having a severe headache when Yoon Yo-han asked her if she was feeling okay. She replied that she wanted to have some space. Her other friends remind her that last time she said the same and she ended up vomiting. She remembered the face of Unni, and how Lee ended up recognizing the death body of Unni, and how her body was paler than ever before. Lee remembered the number carved on the back of her hand that was peeking through the cover. It was number 2. It was the most popular serial killer who used to call the number on the back of the hands of the deceased. Everyone was ferocious of that serial killer in the entire world. People were discussing these killings in their households and in cafes that this number had already crossed 40. They were discussing the police and their works regarding the matter that they were unable to do mentionable work regarding the case. Employees of WBC, including Lee and Yoon, were discussing the same thing. When Lee suggested that it is important to do something big in order to get rid of these criminals, such as finding them all and killing them before. She was leaving for home when Yoon Yo-han told her to take care of herself. She started solo investigation for the murders. She investigated the survivors like the survivor number 21 and 13th. Lee was a reporter at a local newspaper. She was in urgency to know about all the facts behind these killings. She made various questions to the survivor. They both admitted that they were attacked by a single person, and they survived because they weren't supposed to be murdered by them. They were picked up because of certain confusion. On resolution, they were left alive. 21st case survivor, Ms. Lee Ji-hyeon was interviewed by reporter Lee. Mr. Choi Chang-won was interviewed by Lee under the pseudonym. She said that you went out to eat something, and there she met an accident. The murderer came close to her and said that it wasn't her whom he wanted to kill. He was survivor 13. He said that he was being attacked at the busy road, but the road was empty at that moment. He said that he was more furious than ever before. She was thinking about the realities behind the crime one, and notification popped up her screen. She replied back by saying that she was interested to conduct an interview. She left in the middle of the night. She was excited to conduct an interview so that she could take more deeper into the matter. Somebody was keeping a sight on her. She suddenly realized that someone was walking behind her. She was frightened to death when somebody called her Miss Reporter. In the meantime, the guy behind her attacked her with full strength and vigor. She was about to fall when she got a hand off Yoon Yo-han, who asked her to run fast. She asked who he was. Then Yoon replied that could be the number guy or someone else. He requested her to run fast so that they could reach the safe place. That guy was still chasing them. Yoon took her to the main street and attacked her by himself. She fell down quite confused and obnoxious. He confessed that he killed Unni earlier, and now he was going to kill Lee too by craving the number on her hand, so that the blame was going to be on the number guy's shoulder. Yoon told the guy to kill her, and out of the blue, and another guy entered the scene. The new guy announced that he found his victim. 3 hours earlier today's incident, Lee investigated another survivor, Yang Soo-young, that was the case number 37th under the pseudonym. The survivor said that she was thankful to the number guy as he had saved her life. She said that she witnessed that she was about to be killed by her ex-lover. She was so frustrated toward her ex that she kept calling him bastard. She said that the guy who was trying to kill her was killed by the number guy. The girl told her that after the scene, police found bag at the murder scene which was filled by gasoline and butane, as he decided to put the area on fire after killing her. The girl told Lee if the number guy didn't reach there in required time, she would have been dead along with her family, as her ex-lover was determined to put her house on fire with gasoline and butane in his bag. He wanted to avenge her on account of breaking up with him by punishing both her and her family. Exactly on the day when Lee was attacked by Yoon Yo-han. Yoon told her that he was envious of her and her sister Unni. That's why he first killed her, and now it's her turn to be murdered. In the meantime, the number guy entered and he announced that they were his destined murder number 1 and number 4. At that moment, they were busy taking the life of Lee. They both started to encounter him back. They got weapons to attack him, but Number was quite skillfully comparatively to both of them. He thus killed them both. Lee, after that moment, recognized that Number was able to see the future murderer, albeit it sounded weird, but it was true. After killing Number 1 and 4, Number made call to some oblivion entity and announced that his work was done, and by killing those two, he saved the lives of 4 other, whom they decided to kill by themselves. He also told the time that it was 10:35 p.m., and the date that it was November 14, 2026. Lee witnessed all that with extreme confusion and absurdity. It ended up with the death of both the girl and the boy nationally. The Daejeong City serial killer case, or in other words, Number serial killer case, became more prominent. It had continued to inspire other copycat crimes, those who killed people on their own and carved numbers on the bodies so that the blame could be put on Number. On the night of November 14, 2026, police received a report of a woman and a man being killed by Number. The girl was dispatching the orders in the restaurant as she was the waitress. When the girl was listening to the news on the television, she suddenly recognized that both the dead bodies are in relation to each other, and people were murdering in the name of Number so that they could get rid of the blame. The boy, who was busy and staring in air, thinking about the fact of the copycat murders. In the country since the Ma Hyung-cheol case in 2012, no estate case of random massive killing was seen. The boy placed his order that he wanted the simple menu of tender chicken sandwich mixed with Canberries, as a side an egg and 1 piece of waffle. The boy decided about his seat that he would prefer to sit on the second seat on the window side, because from there he could keep a sight the customers inside the restaurants, the workers, entrance and exit spots, the road and the Jonggil station. He was thinking about the target set for being left to be killed by the Number, as he himself was the Number guy. In the meantime, the waitress said that his order was ready, but the girl was trying to see that the guy had left with the tip residing on his table. Later in other restaurants, the group of boys was laughing and cheering while enjoying their beer, when a worker came by and requested them to not create that much, as that was troublesome for the rest of the customer. The guy named Hyung-min got up and splashed the beer bottle to the wall that the female customer there ran away frightening. Later, Hyung-min got indulged in discussion with another guy in the restaurant. They talked about the accident that he had more earlier, where he became the reason to cripple a girl. He used his money, power, and status to get rid of that case. He was laughing about all his ill doings. He was about to leave the restaurant when his friend told him to stay safe, as the situation of the city wasn't safe and sound those days. The Number guy was already waiting for him in his car. He announced that he was going to kill him. Firstly, he made him go to the passenger seat and started driving himself. He told him that he knew that he was deciding to murder someone, that's why they decided to kill him first. Hyungmin lifted the dagger to kill Number. After much hesitation by Hyungmin, Number finally killed him and carved the number 5. After murder, he made the call and said that the time was 21:06, and the date was November 15, 2026. After that, he went back to the same restaurant. He ordered something and finally paid the bill and was about to leave. Then the waitress was moving upstairs while he was going downstairs. The waitress was carrying something in her hand, and then she bumped into the Number guy, and all her items got scattered. Number recognized the girl that redress about the same he was looking for. As soon as the girl fell away with all her items scattered down, the Number guy was more than surprised to see that she was the girl whom he was looking for. And her number kept on changing. Change in numbers kept him quite suspenseful, distressed, and awe. The Number helped her by giving her hand. She asked a guy if he was okay, and he didn't respond. The manager was a girl named Unnie. She was looking all the scene and scenario. The girl said sorry to her as she had scattered all the items belonging to the restaurant. The guy was still staring at the girl of beige color curly hairs, wearing old navy sneakers and her average height of approximately 160. He was pretty sure it was the same girl that was employee there in company with Number 1, and he was surprised at her change in number. The girl there mentioned that she had a terrible headache. The Number guy recognized her name too, that it was Ji-hyeon. Uni let Ji-hyeon lay down as she wanted to put eye drops into her eyes for her eyes irritation. Ji-hyeon said that she was feeling okay, and now she wanted to leave. She also wondered at the cause of pain in her eyes. Unni. Possibly it could be because of dryness, or because she was sleeping too late at night. In the meantime, the show started on the television discussing the murders running in the city. The girl said she had to leave now, and then she left in a hurry. Unnie and the boy working in the restaurant were discussing her behavior, that she was going through certain distress and her life. It was quite obvious from her behavior that she had been encountering issues and she wasn't discussing them openly, albeit she looked like a happy soul in front of everybody. While on her way, Ji-hyeon was thinking that she got late again, and she was going to suffer the punishment on behalf of being late. But she was happy that she was doing that job, as she was going through financial circumstances, and she was in urgency to do so many jobs to improve her financial standings. As soon as she reached there, she got slapped by the owner for being late. She normalized herself by saying that she had to consider all that thing normal, as her only goal and mission was to gain enough money. And for that sake, she was willing to bear all kinds of problems and situations. She was willing to work longer than required hours. She was busy, serving the food articles in front of the customers, when somebody called her from the back, by her name Ji-hyeon. She got stunned to acknowledge that she was recognized by someone. It was the group of girls and boys. One of them said that she was their classmate in Daejeong Elementary, and later her mother Mo-hyun Choel in 2012 met the tragic murder, and she disappeared. Ji-hyeon was the daughter of Mo-hyun Choel. This news got hurt by everyone sitting in the restaurant. She felt that all the eyes staring at her at that moment. Suddenly she felt a huge pain in her eyes as soon as she left the restaurant. The number was standing at the top of the building right in front of the restaurant, staring at her, and pondering about her existence and her connection with the number. Ji-hyeon was 8 years old when that grandeur incident took place. Somebody confessed that he had killed various numbers of the people and then he was under the police custody. The journalists were making questions and asked him if he didn't feel sorry for the family of the victims who had suffered because of the murders that he committed. They further asked him if he was still using the right to stay silent, even after confessing his crimes openly and bluntly. Ji-hyeon was witnessing all that live on the television while sitting with her mother. She was curious why the police were not letting him be attacked by the public, as he had committed the biggest crime ever in history. That man was actually her father. In the meantime, her mother got a call from her boss. Mo-hyun Chol kept on receiving calls like that while Ji-hyeon was growing up. She was 14 years old when she heard her principal talking about her, and that she had acquired the temper of her father. It was quite humiliating and distressing for her to learn that. She became a friend of the girl named Hye-jin. She went through a tough and brutal life because of her father's act. Hye-jin lost her brother too and was quite older than her. She realized that she was the daughter of the man who was a serial killer. He started to bully her and wanted to take revenge on her brother. The principal called her and consoled her and told her not to discuss her father and her griefs in front of those who experienced pains and sorrows because of her father. She asked where it was her fault to be born in the family of her father. The principal said that it was all because of her luck and he couldn't do anything for her sake. She started to feel like she needed to read more and more books so that she could express her feelings. While reading the book, there was one single idea that was moving round and rounding her mind. Ji-hyeon realized that she had some sort of a connection with the numbers because she could follow the numbers wherever they were being written. It was her 18th birthday tomorrow, when she was sitting on the bench in the park, when her friend Baek Min came and joined her. They both were friends for last 10 years, and she was a month older than him. That's why she used to call him Mr. Baby. He gave her a hand cream as her birthday present. He said that no, they both were supposed to go and eat something nice and later into the PC cafe to enjoy and have some fun. On hearing that, she started crying. He asked her why she was crying. Then she started to feel distressed about her past. She asked him if he remembered the time when she was kicked out of the school because of her father. He said that she was thrown out because those students thought that her father was in prison, and she was definitely going to be broke, and it eventually let her join an easy path to acquire money. And definitely she would end up being a serial killer like her father. She kept on yelling, saying that she would not be like her, but nobody believed her, and unlimitedly she was thrown out of the school. She told Baek that you always wanted to have a healthy family for yourself, and she never thought to have a family like she had earlier. Baek took her up and said that she needed to live her life like her dreams, and asked her to go to the PC cafe to have some rounds of PUBG. They both got up, went there. She was still staring at the numbers that came across. They went to the PC cafe and enjoyed PUBG and had huge fun. After that, they bought ice cream for themselves. They were enjoying strolling and having ice cream when she noticed that somebody was following them. They both got scared and ran away. They thought that someone who was following them had left, but actually, eyes were still staring them. Investigation was being made on the daughter of Ji-hyeon Chol. Those who were following them made a video of her and her friend Beck. The number guy watched the video on the LED. He concluded that the daughter of the woman that got murdered was living happily, as she mentioned herself that they both were going to the club that night lately. That video was filmed on November 17th. But before the 2 days of the memorial of the 13th victim of Ji-hyeon Chol case. That victim was MSS. He was 18 years old, exactly the age of Ji-hyeon, right away. He said that her parents had taken the life of young children of someone, and now her daughter was living her life fully and happily and was enjoying her boyfriend, under the story by saying that God was dead. And then he posted his video of saying all those things publicly. Ji-hyeon Chol was serial killer herself. There were countless number of comments made by the people under the video. They were very saddened to see the daughter of that murderer living her life happily and smoothly. One among them said that she was having the same DNA as her mother, and later she was going to pass it too, and thus that serial killer was going to live forever. Ji-hyeon was so stressed to know all that. She was crying hell hard by getting the phone in her hand and reading the comments that people made about her existence when Bak entered her house. He came to console her after that video went viral. Ji-hyeon said to Bak that he shouldn't have come to her place because it could cause more disaster for him. She further said that it was all done by those guys whom she met in the restaurant. Thought that they followed her and they were making her life more complicated and difficult than ever before. He tried to console her by covering her and told her not to bother the things uttered by those guys, as people would definitely be going to forget about everything and they would get nothing to troll her anymore. She said that she knew, but she was so saddened to learn that she was inheritance of the crying and all about karma. That was all letting her know to grow fully and healthily. She said whenever she started to feed better, they all threw her in a pit of distress and sadness. The girl with whom she was living said that a situation was going out of control and she had to leave for her night shift. People started to throw stones in the apartment. It was quite difficult for her to leave her alone at that moment. Baek-min said that it was off time from the school, so he could stay there near her. Men tried to fight something so that he could cook dinner for her. He saw Ji-hyeon sleeping and the people left the street. He decided to go to the market in order to bring something for her. As soon as he opened the door, he was confronted by the group of the guys standing by the door. They asked him if he was her boyfriend. They entered her apartment by saying that they wanted to interview her. He stopped them, but suddenly a man entered with full strength and vigor. He said that he was the father of MSS, who was killed by Ji-hyeon Chol. He further said she was only 18 years old, exactly like Ji-hyeon now. He forcefully entered the house by carrying a hammer in his hand. Beck intervened in the matter to protect him from reaching Ji-hyeon, but the man hit him with the hammer right on his head. Ms. S's father, accompanied by a group of bloggers, stormed into Ji-hyeon's residence, while the nation remained indifferent, debating online whether her impending fate was deserved. As they forced their way inside, Baek-min stepped forward to reason with Ms. S's father. The man, blinded by grief, swung a hammer at him before charging ahead toward Ji-hyeon. Watching from the shadows, Ji-hyeon witnessed everything unfold. The world had already labeled her a serial killer, condemning her to the same fate as her father. If everyone expected her to be a murderer, why should she resist? Steeling herself, she resolved to protect Baek-min. As Ms. S's father advanced, she moved to stab him from behind, only to be stopped at the last moment. A firm grip seized her wrist. The infamous serial killer known only as Number had intervened. His piercing gaze scrutinized her, contemplating the reason behind her transformation. Had she truly inherited her father's nature? Or had society's relentless expectations shaped her into the monster they feared? With a swift motion, he slashed her with his knife, sending her collapsing to the ground. The bloggers, who had been recording the chaos, wasted no time fleeing the scene, abandoning their equipment in their haste. Meanwhile, Ms. S's father, undeterred, attempted to claim what he believed was justice. His daughter had been murdered by Ji-hyeon's father. Was it not right for him to take Ji-hyeon's life in return? But before he could act, Number swiftly intervened, grabbing him by the throat and halting his advance. Lying on the floor, blood pooling beneath her, Ji-hyeon's mind reeled in shock. Through her fading vision, she noticed something peculiar. Number could see the digits hovering above people's heads. Those numbers represented the lives they would take in the future, dictating Number's purpose, to eliminate future murderers before they could strike. Her own number was staggering. She was destined to kill 4,326 people. The sheer weight of it crushed her resolve. She was ready to accept her fate, to die at Number's hands. But then, Baek Min flashed through her mind. She couldn't leave him behind. She had mere seconds to act. As her consciousness wavered, she forced herself to think of a way to save him. Noticing she was still breathing, Number coldly asked if she had any last words. Ji-hyeon seized the moment and questioned him. Why was he so intent on killing her but not Ms. S's father, who had also attacked Baek Min? Number explained his code to her. The man before them had only intended to kill one person, to avenge his daughter. His actions, while violent, were limited. Ji-hyeon, on the other hand, was fated to slaughter thousands. To Number, the difference was clear. A single murder did not warrant execution, but thousands did. Just as he prepared to strike once more, something strange happened. Ji-hyeon's numbers, her destined victims, began to decrease. It steadily dropped until it reached just one. At the same time, the number above Ms. S's father's head increased to 2. Number froze. He had seen this phenomenon once before, yet he couldn't place when or why. A memory flickered in his mind, of a promise he had made to someone long ago, a promise that he would continue his mission until he could prove that the numbers would never change. But now, before his very eyes, they had shifted. Ji-hyeon's number had plummeted, proving something he never believed possible. He had no time to dwell on the implications. Ms. S's father, still blinded by grief, made another move to kill Ji-hyeon. His voice trembled with sorrow as he apologized to his late daughter for failing to take revenge. But in that instant, Number made his decision. If the numbers dictated fate, then they had just rewritten it. Without hesitation, he struck, preventing the man from carrying out his vengeful act. As Ji-hyeon's consciousness teetered on the edge, she felt herself being lifted. Number placed her in his car, determined to uncover the mystery behind her unprecedented change. When Ji-hyeon regained consciousness, she found herself inside a van. Disoriented, she attempted to speak, only to be met with a sharp pain in her throat. Her hand instinctively moved to the wound, a deep gash now covered with gauze. Ignoring the pain, she tried to move, to get her bearings, but as she attempted to step out of the van, something yanked her back. She looked down and saw a rope binding her ankle, preventing her from leaving. At that moment, Number spoke. Watching her struggle, he remarked that she had woken up earlier than expected. He advised her not to waste her energy on escaping. He had no intention of killing her, he assured her, so it would be in her best interest to stay put. Realizing she had little choice, Ji-hyeon retreated back into the van. Inside, her eyes wandered toward the back, where Number was handling an assortment of tools. Sitting near the front, she let her mind replay the events that had led her here. Then, a memory struck her. She had met him before, at the restaurant where she worked part-time. She turned to him, her voice uncertain as she questioned him. Was she really destined to kill 4,000 people? Without hesitation, he corrected her. 4,326. The number hung heavy between them. But that was all in the past now. Because the moment he had answered her question, something unexplainable had happened. Her number had started to decline. From thousands, it had plummeted down to just 1. And as she already knew, if a person's number indicated they would only kill 1, they weren't a target for elimination. In some strange way, she had bypassed her fate. Number spoke again, this time telling her that Baek Min was still alive. Relief flooded through her at the news, but he wasn't finished. He explained that Ms. S's father, who had initially intended to kill Baek Min, had been her original target for murder. Yet, due to an inexplicable shift, her own number had decreased while his had risen, ultimately turning him into Number's target instead. Ji-hyeon processed his words and asked, "So, that meant he had killed the man?" Number confirmed it outright, explaining that he had no choice. If he hadn't acted, Ms. S's father would have killed her first. Then, turning the conversation back onto her, he asked whether she was trying to shift the blame onto him. After all, wasn't it her who had first intended to commit murder? He then elaborated on how the numbers worked. He explained that fate was unchangeable. It didn't matter what obstacles stood in someone's way, whether they were stabbed, locked away, or left to rot in isolation. If they had a destined kill count, they would fulfill it, one way or another. Then, stepping closer, he regarded her carefully. Her case was different. Her number had changed, something that should have been impossible. It was an enigma, even to him, so that she should now understand what that meant. Without further discussion, he climbed into the driver's seat and started the van. "Where are we going?" Ji-hyeon asked. His responded, "You'll be with me from now on, wherever I go." Her heart pounded. "Can't you just drop me off at my house?" He shook his head, then handed her his phone. A news broadcast was playing. Her stomach dropped. The media was reporting on the recent murder that had taken place at her home, and everyone was pointing fingers at her. Number spoke again. "Even if you escape from me, you'll be on the run from the police. Either way, you can't live freely anymore." Then, pausing, he added, "Besides, I can't let someone like you roam around." Ji-hyeon clenched her fists, her mind racing. She couldn't just go with him, not like this. Thinking quickly, she tried a different approach. "I can't leave in this state," she said. "At least let me go home to pack some things and inform my mother." To her surprise, he agreed. When they arrived, she wasted no time. She stuffed essentials into a bag, her mind running through possible escape routes. She had to get away from Number. This was her chance. But then she heard footsteps. Someone was outside. A shadow loomed near the doorway, a figure peeking in from behind it. Meanwhile, back in the van, Number sat in silence, deep in thought. If she tried to escape, she would fail. But if she stayed, then she would pass. Before Ji-hyeon could fully grasp the situation, the intruder barged into the room, clutching a broken glass bottle in his hand. He raised it, ready to strike, only to freeze mid-motion upon recognizing her. Ji-hyeon, sensing the sudden hesitation, lifted her gaze, only to find herself face to face with Baek-min. Shocked, she demanded to know why he was there. Baek-min explained that he had returned to retrieve a bag left behind after the police cleared the scene. Seeing the door ajar, he had assumed those bastards had come back. But upon realizing it was Ji-hyeon, relief flooded him as she was alive. Her eyes drifted to his wound. Instinctively, she reached out, touching it lightly. He flinched, but quickly dismissed her concern, assuring her it was nothing more than a scratch. She apologized regardless. Then, as if remembering something, Baek-min handed her a detective's business card. He urged her to contact the man, who had promised to help clear her name from the baseless accusations spreading like wildfire. Claims that she had been working with the serial killer. Number. But Ji-hyeon remained silent, making no move to take the card. Her lack of response unsettled him. His eyes trailed past her, landing on the suitcases by her side. A frown creased his face. "Where are you going?" he asked, bewildered. Ji-hyeon met his gaze, her expression unreadable. "Why are you pretending not to know?" she said bitterly. "You saw what happened. You know how I was stabbed." Baek-min hesitated. He did recall the attack, how Ms. S's father had stormed in, how the hammer struck him before everything went black. When he regained consciousness, he was in a hospital bed, with a detective sitting at his side. They had shown him a video, a footage from the live-streamed incident. But it only captured the moment till the point where Ji-hyeon had raised the knife, ready to strike. "What happened after that?" he had asked. The detective's response was grim. The phone had been destroyed midstream. That was all the public had seen, and the evidence was enough to paint Ji-hyeon as Number's accomplice. He had been asked about her whereabouts, but he hadn't known. The detective urged him, as her friend, to contact the authorities if he found her and to convince her to cooperate as they were desperate for information on Number. Now, as he stood before Ji-hyeon, he couldn't shake the doubt gnawing at him. "Where did you go after that night?" he pressed. "Everyone thinks you were involved with him." Ji-hyeon exhaled, her voice laced with something between resignation and defiance. "You've misunderstood, Min. I may not have killed that man, but when I raised that knife, it wasn't to stop him. It wasn't even to protect you." Her fingers clenched at her sides. "I wanted to kill him." Min's breath caught. "I was completely aware of what I was doing. Maybe he was right." Her voice wavered. "Maybe I am like my father. Maybe I really am a destined murderer." "No," Baek Min interjected firmly. But Ji-hyeon shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. "For your own safety," she whispered, "I have to stay away from you." Min opened his mouth to argue, but before he could, his expression darkened. "Your mother collapsed," he revealed. "She's in the hospital." Ji-hyeon stilled. For a brief moment, pain flickered across her face, but instead of turning back, she steeled herself. "Then that's all the more reason for me to leave." With that, she turned and left. Outside, she climbed into the van where Number was waiting. He arched an eyebrow. "Took you long enough," he muttered. "For a second, I thought you ran away." Ji-hyeon didn't respond. Instead, she asked, "If I stay with you, does that mean I won't kill anyone?" Number said yes to that. However, he told her, "If your number ever rises again, I will kill you." Back at the apartment, Detective Kwon Samuel arrived at Ji-hyeon's home, surveying the place. A woman beside him clicked her tongue. "She's alive, just as you expected," she remarked. "But why sneak around her own home?" The detective's sharp gaze swept over the room. "The answer's in the footage," he murmured. "Are the CCTVs working?" "We're still recovering them," the woman responded. "Then work faster," he ordered. "This is the only lead we have left." A woman, trembling with fear at the relentless knocking on her door, dialed the police for help. They assured her that a dispatch would be sent and urged her to remain calm. But she couldn't take it anymore. "Why don't you just arrest him?" she pleaded. "I can't bear this harassment any longer." The officer's response left her more frustrated. "He hasn't committed a crime," they explained. "Without proof, we can't take action." Meanwhile, Mon Ji-hyeon sat in a chair outside of a van, far from her home, idly eating cereal. Across from her, Number flipped through a notebook. She glanced at him. "Do you have anything else to eat?" He didn't even look up. "Check the second drawer on the right." "I already did," she muttered. "Eggs and chicken breast. I don't want that." Number shrugged. "Routine is all that matters to me," he replied. "The only thing that bothers me is when it's disrupted." 4 days had passed since she started traveling with him. She had done little except move from place to place while Number followed his unchanging routine. Every day, he parked the van in some dark alley before heading off to a secluded area, hunting his next target, always leaving her behind. That night, as he prepared to leave, he gave his usual warning. "Stay inside. People have seen your face. If they recognize you, it'll cause problems." He hesitated before adding, "If I don't return by 1 a.m., you're on your own." As he disappeared into the night, Ji-hyeon found herself lost in thought. She recalled how, back at the restaurant where she worked, he always ordered the same meal. The memory brought a tinge of warmth, but also sadness. She missed her colleagues, the laughter, the normalcy. "Am I doing the right thing?" she wondered. But no answer came. Hours later, Number returned, his clothes drenched in blood. The heavy scent filled the van, making Ji-hyeon's stomach churn. She averted her eyes as he changed into clean clothes. "How many?" she asked quietly. "2," he answered, unfazed. "One had a head count of 5, the other 3. I had to use force. Doesn't matter, as long as I get the job done." Something in her vision flickered. A sharp sting shot through her eye. Then, in glowing yellow neon, numbers appeared above his head. 9/11. She froze. She had seen these numbers before, but their meaning had eluded her. Now she understood. They weren't random, they were the time a person had left to live. Noticing her stare, Number frowned. "What is it?" "Nothing," she lied. His eyes narrowed. "You're a terrible liar." He stepped closer. What did you see? I said it's nothing. Ji-hyeon wasn't trying to deceive him. She just didn't want to burden him with this revelation. But her evasion stirred something in him. A memory from his childhood surfaced. He had been a young boy when it first happened. A sudden pain in his eye, just like Ji-hyun's now. At first, he hadn't understood, but soon he realized it was the moment he started seeing the potential murders a person would commit. Could it be that she was seeing something too? His thoughts remained unreadable as he parked the van in a narrow alley. I have something to take care of, he said. I'll be back in an hour or two. Then, he was gone. Alone in the van, Ji-hyun's gaze wandered to the streets. People passed by, and above each of them, numbers flickered. A sickening realization settled in. The numbers changed based on how close someone was to death. Minutes for those on the brink. Days for the near future. Years for those with time left. Then she spotted her. The same woman who had called the police. The one tormented by an unseen stalker. But something was wrong. The numbers above everyone's heads were identical. Her pulse quickened. What did it mean? Meanwhile, high above, Number stood on the rooftop of a nearby building. His gaze locked onto his target. It was the same man who had been harassing the woman. Ji-hyeon, upon seeing the same numbers on their heads, instantly realized that these three people were destined to die at the same time. However, considering her own situation, there wasn't much she could do. The rapidly flickering seconds indicated that only 8 hours remained before their murder. Despite the odds, she resolved to warn them in advance. Stepping out of the van, she began following them. From his vantage point on the rooftop, Number spotted her immediately. At first he assumed she was attempting to escape, but upon observing her movements, he noticed she was trailing a family. Coincidentally, it was the same moment he had also located his target. Inside the mall, Yoon-seo, the girl who had been relentlessly stalked, kept receiving calls from an unknown number. Her dad advised her to report it to the police, but she shook her head. "It's not just him," she muttered. "That bastard posted my number in a public restroom and shared it in chat rooms. Now, I keep getting calls from strangers," she sighed. "On top of that, he keeps making reservations and ordering couriers in my name. If I cancel them, I have to pay the penalties myself." When asked if she knew why he was stalking her, she scoffed bitterly. "If I knew, do you think I'd be sitting here like this?" She exhaled sharply, her frustration evident. "I'll be staying here with you guys until I move my things out. Just don't mention any of this to Minseo." But as she spoke, a chilling realization dawned upon Ji-hyeon, who was listening to them. She wasn't just being stalked, she was in real danger. Not only her, but her family, and an innocent child too young to die. Just then, she heard Number's voice beside her. Startled, she gasped, clutching her chest. "Damn it! You scared the hell out of me!" Number, unfazed, looked at her intently. "Tell me about the numbers." Ji-hyeon hesitated. She had kept this secret for so long, but seeing his unwavering gaze, she knew there was no point in hiding it anymore. "How do you know about them?" she asked cautiously. Number smirked. "When you mentioned the pain in your eye earlier, I figured it out immediately. Besides, when I told you about the numbers, you accepted the idea way too easily." A conflict waged within her. Should she really tell him everything? But before she could decide, she overheard the family mentioning they were done shopping and preparing to leave. There was no more time to hesitate. Turning to Number, she exhaled and said, "I'll explain on the way back." As they walked, she told him about her ability. The ability to see the time a person had left in the world. Then, recalling the numbers she had seen on the family's heads, she whispered, "They're going to be killed by 10 p.m. A chilling thought struck her. It has to be him, the stalker, the one who is harassing her. Number glanced upwards and immediately spotted the man standing on the railing above. "I can see him," he said. "Head count, 3. Ji-hyeon's breath hitched. Without thinking, she bolted toward the family, intent on warning them. But before she could take more than a few steps, Numbers stopped her. Where do you think you're going? I have to do something. If I warn them, they can notify the police. That way, they'll be saved, she argued. Number shook his head. You still don't understand how this works, he muttered. Before he could say more, a commotion erupted near the family. Yoon-seo had collided with someone, sending her belongings scattering across the floor. As she bent to pick them up, Yoon-seo's gaze followed her, and locked onto the stalker standing above. A cold shiver ran down her spine. Number's voice was calm, almost indifferent. Well, you got what you wanted. They've been notified. But look at their numbers. Did they change? Ji-hyeon's heart pounded. She glanced at the family again, then back at him. No, she admitted. That's because once the countdown begins, nothing can stop it. He told her, unless I intervene and kill that person myself. Number told her that knowing someone's death in advance was a powerful thing. However, as the countdown had already begun, their death time was set, and it wouldn't change. That meant he had to leave and make the necessary preparations. Meanwhile, she needed to keep an eye on the stalker to ensure he didn't harm them before the appointed time. Ji-hyeon hesitated. Are you sure I can pull this off? She asked him. Besides, you removed the SIM card from my phone. If something goes wrong, how am I supposed to contact you? Number smirked. I've already planted a GPS on you. If anything happens, I'll find you. She frowned but decided to focus on the more pressing issue. What if she locks her door and reports him to the police? That should keep her safe, right? Number, however, had a different view. The police don't take action until something actually happens. And besides, I've sensed in him a deep devotion towards her. This isn't just an impulse. He's been meticulously planning this for a long time. A locked door won't be enough to stop him. With that, he turned and left. As time passed, the tension grew. When only an hour and 15 minutes remained, 2 policemen who had been guarding Yoon-seo suddenly prepared to leave. Her dad questioned their early departure. If the stalker had shown up, we would have put an electric bracelet on him, one officer explained. But since he didn't follow her here from the mall, we have no grounds to detain him. We have to leave. Before exiting, they took another round of the building, scanning for anything amiss. As a final precaution, they advised them to keep the door locked and stay inside. If anything happens, one of them said, use the digital watch we gave you to alert us. With that, they left. Meanwhile, Ji-hyeon, stationed in the next apartment, watched from the window. As planned, she would monitor the building until the stalker made his move. She scanned the surroundings. The area was still under construction. The lack of people worked in her favor. It meant she could keep a close eye on their door without drawing attention. Her thoughts drifted to the first time she had heard about killing someone. The idea had unsettled her. But now, weighing the situation rationally, saving 3 lives by taking 1, it seemed like a fair bargain. Then, at exactly 39 minutes before the predicted time, she spotted the stalker approaching the apartment. He held something in both hands. Ji-hyeon tensed, watching as he stopped at the neighboring door. But from her angle, she couldn't see exactly what he was doing. Inside the building, the stalker silently spread a plastic sheet over Yoon-seo's apartment window. He drilled a small hole through it. Then, he inserted a pipe through the hole. Ji-hyeon, still watching, couldn't understand his actions. But then she saw him turn and leave. Inside the apartment, Yoon-seo suddenly wrinkled her nose. Do you smell that? She asked her father. Her father assumed he had left the gas valve open by mistake. I'll check the kitchen, he said, heading inside. Meanwhile, Yoon-seo turned to Min-seo. Open the window. Min-seo rushed to the window but stopped abruptly. The glass was cracked. Confused, she hesitated, then decided to open it anyway. The moment the window slid up, the stalker seized his chance. In one swift motion, he jumped inside. The attack was immediate. He struck Yoon-seo's father first, sending him sprawling to the ground. Min-seo screamed, backing away. The stalker's cold eyes locked onto Yoon-seo. Why did you run away from me? Didn't I tell you what would happen if you did? Yoon-seo's breath hitched. No. Please. You treated me like garbage, he sneered. I warned you not to. Outside, Ji-hyeon had just stepped out of her hiding place when she noticed the gas cylinder sitting by the door. Her stomach dropped. Before she could process it, a commotion erupted inside. Heart pounding, she ran to the door and banged on it. Open up! What's going on? Are you all right? She called, desperate for a response. Inside, the chaos momentarily halted. Something, a sound from above, drew both the stalker and Yunseo's attention to the ceiling. They froze, trying to make sense of it. Outside, Ji-hyeon also looked up, her mind racing. Then, she heard voice of Number, who was already outside the apartment complex. Report the situation. Give me their location, he instructed calmly. It was 10:11 p.m. Only 21 minutes remained before their deaths. When they couldn't make sense of the buzzing overhead, Mo Ji-hyun's phone vibrated with an unexpected message from Number. Her breath hitched as she read it. He was telling her to report the incident. But what left her even more shaken was the fact that her phone had no SIM card. So this was what he had meant when he said he would contact her whenever he wished. The realization sent a shiver down her spine, but she didn't have time to dwell on it. Inside the apartment, Yunseo, though terrified, didn't hesitate. She lunged at the stalker, landing a punch against his left flank, buying precious seconds while she shouted at Minseo to run and call the police. Minseo bolted toward the door in a blind panic, flinging it open with such force that it struck Ji-hyun's face, slamming painfully against her nose. Ji-hyun stumbled back, clutching at her face as stars burst behind her eyelids. Meanwhile, the stalker, seeing Yunseo attempting to flee, grabbed her by the hair, yanking her back with vicious force. She cried out as he slammed her to the ground. His free hand reached into his pocket, drawing a dagger, its blade catching the dim apartment light. Just as he raised it, ready to strike, Ji-hyeon burst into the room, clutching a gas cylinder. Without hesitation, she twisted the valve, releasing a thick cloud of inert gas into the air, aiming directly at the attacker. The stalker recoiled, coughing, his eyes watering from the sudden burst of fumes. Ji-hyeon wasted no time. She rushed to Yunseo's side, asking frantically if she was all right before ordering her to run. Her voice was sharp because it's 10:20. This family have exactly 12 minutes and 47 seconds before he kills them all. The stalker, recovering from his momentary shock, turned his bloodshot eyes to Ji-hyeon. His lips twisted into a sneer as recognition dawned. So it's you, he rasped, wiping at his streaming eyes. The little bitch that's been following me. He took a step forward, brandishing the dagger. You think you can stop me? What will you do? Call the police? Go ahead, let them come. By the time they get here, you'll be nothing but a fucking corpse. And the reporters? Oh, they'll love this, me, murdering my ex-girlfriend and her entire pathetic family. With that, he shoved Ji-hyeon aside and charged toward the door, where Yunseo was making her escape. But the moment he stepped into the dimly lit hallway, something felt off. A creeping sensation crawled up his spine. He hesitated, glancing back, but there was no one there. His breath quickened. Was it just his imagination? He shook his head and took another step forward. He turned back again. This time, he noticed a door slightly ajar, a faint light flickering above it. His heart pounded, unease creeping in. But when he looked once more, the light was gone. Before he could make sense of the unsettling shifts in his surroundings, a shadow materialized above him. Then, pain exploded at the back of his head. Number had him. Before the stalker could react, a hand gripped his hair, yanking his head back before slamming him face first onto the cold floor. A dagger pierced his left arm, embedding itself deep into muscle and tendon. A choked scream tore from his throat. Number crouched beside him, his voice chillingly calm. Once the pain fades, he murmured, you can tell me your last words. The stalker spat blood and laughed through gritted teeth, forcing himself to his feet. Who the fuck do you think you are? He growled. He whirled around to attack, but there was no one there. His breath came fast and ragged as he searched the hallway. Had he imagined it? Then his eyes caught movement. Yunseo was still ahead, desperately trying to escape. His grip on the dagger tightened. With renewed fury, he lunged forward, But before he could reach her, a force crashed into him from behind, sending him sprawling. He barely had time to react before a heavy object struck his head with a sickening thud. Blood spewed from his lips as he choked, vision blurring. Ji-hyeon had thrown the gas cylinder at him. She stood over him, chest heaving. Number sighed, stepping closer. "You are persistent," he said, glancing at Ji-hyeon before turning his attention back to the stalker, who writhed in pain. "If you hadn't resisted, you wouldn't be suffering like this." Enraged, the stalker roared, forcing himself up. With a wild swing, he hurled the gas cylinder back at Ji-hyeon, but Number was faster. In one swift motion, he pulled Ji-hyeon behind him, shielding her. His other hand lashed out, driving his blade into the stalker's gut and shoving him backward. Ji-hyeon's breath hitched. She should have run. Why hadn't she? She had every opportunity to escape. She could have abandoned the GPS-tracked phone and fled, leaving all of this behind. And yet, she stayed. Why? Was it because she didn't want to become a murderer like her father? Or was it something more? Was she truly afraid of Number? Or was she captivated by his twisted logic, that killing destined murderers was a means of saving lives? Could it be that deep down, she wanted to see if he could truly change the future? If his methods, as brutal as they were, could carve out a world where she and her loved ones wouldn't have to live in fear of scum like the man now bleeding out before them? Her thoughts were interrupted by Number's voice. He was addressing the stalker once more. His tone was unreadable, but there was a finality in it. "I'll ask you again," he said, eyes cold, dagger still in hand. "What are your last words?" Mo Ji-hyeon approached Yunseo, who was crouching on the floor with her hands raised defensively, fearing that the stalker might return at any moment to harm her. Ji-hyeon extended her hand and asked if she could get up. Supporting her, she guided her back toward her apartment. On the way, Yunseo hesitated before asking who they were. Mo Ji-hyeon couldn't tell her their identity, so, lowering her voice, she made a request. Could Yunseo pretend in front of the police that she had never seen them? Before Yunseo could answer, Ji-hyeon muttered to herself that such a thing would be impossible. Instead, she quickly revised her plea. Could she at least pretend not to remember what they looked like? After a brief pause, Yunseo agreed. Upon reaching the apartment, Yunseo rushed toward her father, who was slumped on the couch, trying to staunch the blood from a stab wound in his belly. Number, standing by, reassured Ji-hyeon that the injury wasn't fatal. If treated in time, he would survive. But first, they needed to take care of the Numbers. They turned to the stalker, who lay trembling in pain on the ground. When they reached him, he cursed them through gritted teeth. Mo Ji-hyeon looked down at him and uttered coldly, "So, you're still alive?" Enraged, the stalker spat back that if they hadn't interfered, he would have already finished the job. Because of them, he hadn't been able to, and now they didn't even know who they were messing with. "That girl," he snarled, "was the worst kind of bitch." Ji-hyeon responded indifferently. They didn't know, and frankly, they didn't care. They had no interest in the life of a man who didn't hesitate to kill a child. Then, turning to Number, she reminded him that they were running out of time as police would be arriving any second. They had to leave. But Number wasn't done yet. He said he needed to ask the stalker his last words first. A memory flickered in Ji-hyeon's mind where Number was asking the stalker earlier the very same question. She hadn't thought he was serious. Her voice edged with urgency as she questioned why he even cared what dying man's last words would be. They should just leave. Number, unmoved, told her that if she didn't want to hear it, she was free to go. He advised her to take the emergency stairs rather than the main ones and head to the rooftop to wait for him. That way, they could avoid suspicion. She hesitated, but ultimately did as he said, though the question still gnawed at her that, how exactly were they planning to escape from there? Reaching the rooftop, Ji-hyeon scanned her surroundings, her eyes catching on a coil of rope at the edge. A sinking feeling settled in her stomach. Was that their escape plan? When she looked down, her unease deepened. Police had already arrived, their vehicles blocking off the building. Now she could only hope that Number would abandon his obsession with last words and get up here as soon as possible. Meanwhile, downstairs, Number acted swiftly. With a single, clean movement, he slashed the stalker's throat. The sound of blood hitting the floor echoed in Yoonseo's ears. She stood frozen at the threshold of her apartment, watching in horror. Number didn't spare her a glance as he left, already hearing the sirens getting closer. On the rooftop, Ji-hyeon's pulse quickened as she heard footsteps on the stairs. Seeing Number emerge, she immediately asked about the ropes. He explained that given the layout of the building, they had no choice. If they tried to leave normally, they would be caught, and their faces would be captured on CCTV. Their best option was to escape by jumping from the rooftop. Ji-hyeon felt her blood run cold. "You're suggesting we jump?" she stammered. "We don't have time," he replied. Without waiting for further discussion, he secured one end of the rope to the railing. Ji-hyeon was still in shock, but she managed to ask, "If you escape that way, what about me?" Before she could fully process what was happening, he pulled her toward him and lifted her onto his back. "Hold on tight," he ordered. She hesitated, then tightened her grip around his shoulders. "Not yet," he murmured, his eyes flicking toward a CCTV camera. At that moment, something unnatural happened. A swarm of fleas obscured the camera lens, as if driven by an unseen force. Then, without warning, he leapt. Ji-hyeon's scream pierced the night as they plummeted through the air. Nearby, in an apartment building, a man standing near the scene caught a glimpse of a bolt streaking past, but before he could fully comprehend what he had seen, he inexplicably turned away and focused on his phone instead, as if his mind had been wiped of curiosity. At the police station, Minseo was reporting the incident. A police officer picked up the phone and called it in. On November 26, around 10:15 p.m., a complaint was filed at Janan Street, 114-2, Building 105, Unit 708. Initial response was by Officer Choi Yoon-yeol and Superintendent Park Hong-shik. Based on the wounds and the numbers carved into the victim's wrist, it's clear that this was the work of Number. At that moment, a car pulled up in front of the crime scene. Detective Kwon Samuel stepped out, followed by another detective. They stood in front of the building for a moment, taking it in. Kwon Samuel exhaled slowly before commenting, "So, this is where it happened this time." Detective Kwon Samuel, shielding his eyes with his hand like a makeshift telescope, stared intently at the CCTV camera above. His assistant approached and informed him that she had brought the CCTV footage as requested. She hesitated for a moment before asking what he was doing. Without looking at her, he remarked that he was watching the clouds and asked if she didn't think they resembled dog poop. She followed his gaze, examined the clouds, and then replied that dog poop was usually rounder. Ignoring her observation, he took the tablet from her hands and asked if she had retrieved all the files. She explained that she had only brought footage from nearby buildings, as gathering everything would have been too much. He nodded in appreciation, then handed her his yo-yo, instructing her to hide it, warning that if the chief inside the building saw it, he would be furious. She sighed and asked why he didn't just get rid of it altogether. Inside the apartment building, the forensics team was meticulously combing through the scene, desperately searching for any fingerprints that could lead them to Number. The chief, already agitated by yet another of Number's escapes, grew more frustrated with each passing moment. His irritation was evident as he couldn't stand the fact that the notorious criminal had once again slipped through their fingers without leaving a single trace. As his frustration mounted, a voice broke through the tense silence behind him. It was Detective Kwon Samuel. He inquired about the whereabouts of the victim's family. Detective Moon responded, explaining that the father had been seriously wounded, meaning they were likely at the hospital. Kwon acknowledged his help with a polite nod. The chief, already brimming with anger, snapped at Kwon, questioning why he had barged into the crime scene unannounced and disrupted their investigation. He ranted about how they had been working tirelessly since morning, only for Kwon to waltz in as if he owned the place. Taken aback, Kwon was at a loss for words. The chief continued, accusing him of contaminating the crime scene with his dirty shoes and risking the loss of crucial evidence. Realizing he had overstayed his welcome, Kwon quickly apologized and left with his assistant, wishing the team the best of luck before stepping out. Once outside, Kwon's assistant glanced at him and commented that it seemed like the chief hated him. He let out a small chuckle before responding in a melancholy tone, admitting that it was probably true. He had always wanted to be friends with the chief, but the man refused to see the reasoning behind his actions. He sighed and shifted his focus back to the tablet, reviewing the CCTV footage. His assistant then suggested they head to the hospital to speak with the victims, but Kwon dismissed the idea. Instead, he instructed her to watch the footage he was currently examining. As she leaned in to look, her eyes widened in shock. The footage captured Number from behind. From this, they could confirm that he had entered the building at precisely 22:11. However, there was no evidence of how or when he had left. Kwon pointed out that, based on the footage, the rooftop had to be the key to his escape. His assistant proposed that perhaps he had exited through a lower floor instead, but Kwon immediately rejected the notion. Once they arrived at the rooftop, they discovered the telltale strain marks on the railing, clear evidence of a rope being used for descent. Kwon's assistant hesitated before voicing her thoughts. If Number had escaped by rappelling down, then surely he would have been caught on another camera. Kwon agreed and decided to check the corresponding footage. However, when they played the video from that exact moment, they found something bizarre. Just as Number would have appeared in frame, the camera had been obscured by a sudden swarm of flies. As Kwon pieced together the events, he realized something chilling. The moment the witness saw the light flash through the air coincided exactly with the moment the flies swarmed the camera, creating a blind spot. How could Number have known about this in advance? How could he commit such calculated crimes while ensuring his escape went unnoticed? His methods defied logic. It was almost as if he could predict the future before it unfolded. His assistant, now equally disturbed, hesitated before asking if it was possible that Number had abilities similar to Kwon's. Kwon turned to face her, his expression unreadable, but in that moment, a crimson light flickered in his eyes, as if he were deeply contemplating her words. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Yunseo was at the cafeteria when Detective Kwon Samuel called out to her. She turned to see him sitting at a nearby table, a notebook open in front of him, with 2 cups of coffee, as if he had been waiting for someone. He gestured for her to sit, and reassured her not to be alarmed as he was only there to ask a few questions. As she took a seat, he casually inquired about her well-being. She responded that she was doing much better than before. He nodded, watching her closely. As she spoke, he noticed something strange. Written across her face was the number 23,102. His gaze lingered on the numbers before he leaned forward, lowering his voice. He told her that since she was already aware of the situation, she should avoid lying to him. He asked if she understood what he meant. After a moment's hesitation, she nodded in agreement. As she did, Kwon's gaze flicked down to his notebook, where a photograph of Ji-hyeon lay among the pages.